is Lieutenant Colonel Jim Parsons, retired, and today we're very honored and privileged to have with us Basia Berner. And I don't think she minds telling us her age and divulging that, because she's 91 and she was on television last night and they were making a big issue about she was swimming across Lake Brittany. They had a drone above and pictured her out in the middle of the lake swimming at 91, and so they were saying what health benefits that is, and so her age is out there, so I don't mind.
No,
I'm 88 myself, and so we're kind of that generation that if our story is not told now, perhaps this upcoming generation will have a tendency to repeat it. And we do see that in America now, that some of the signs that were going on in Poland when she was a young girl, we see happening here in the United States. We've never been overrun by a foreign power. There's never been a republic or a democracy like ours that lasted over 200 years. They all met their demise. We've been out 245 years now, and we've been able to keep our freedom, and we would like to keep it that way, but unless we pay attention to the past and what happened to those others, it may happen to us. Khrushchev, the Russian leader, once said, America will never fall to a foreign power. They just simply will spend themselves to death. And we're kind of seeing a little bit of that now. So would like to go ahead and introduce Barbara Berner, goes by the name Basia. And so if we will, Basia, when were you born?
I'm Basia Berner, born in Poland, is Barbara Kosianowska, my maiden name, but I'm all over known as Basia. I was born, as I said, in Poland. The city is Toruń, very famous city because Copernicus was born there also, a long time ago. And I came to this world on March 1st, 1930, to the family of Kosianowski-Berner. He was a high-range Navy officer in Poland, and my mother, Antonina Mizgalska. After a short time, we moved from Toruń to Gdynia, because being a Navy officer, he has to be near the Baltic Sea. We have the Baltic Sea around us, and Gdynia was being built very fast, very new city. They call it. It started be the city from the sand, because we have a lot of sand there, but it's very current city, very big one now. I started schooling over there when I was 5 years old, in the very nice private school, and I till 1939. In between, my father was a president of Navy school in Gdynia, so we moved there for a year, then we come back to the previous house till 1939, when my father was taken to the Warsaw, to the main quarters of Polish Navy. So we moved in 1939 to Warsaw just before the war started. It was July. At the beginning of September, Germans attacked Poland, September 1st, very brutally, unexpectedly, and unfortunately our allies, England and France, which was supposed to help us, just deserted us. My father left for the war on September 2nd. Since then I haven't seen him for many years. After that we have to We have a very nice place to live in suburb of Warsaw, but when the war started, we were walking to Warsaw by foot, grabbing only one little suitcase to be better in the Warsaw, to survive the bombing and attacking Germans. They were really very long time. We fought with Germans maybe the whole month. Polish soldiers on horses fought against tanks.
Good.
And we are very, very, very adamant to keep our freedom, but it was impossible. The Germans were too strong for us, nobody helped us. So finally, Warsaw was conquered, and I remember the whole situation of the bombing and coming was not so bad, because we still believed that maybe some miracle will happen and we'll be free. There was no food to eat, so we went outside to the street, and I had a nanny, so the nanny went out with me to the street with a big knife, and there were killed horses on the street, so we cut pieces of meat to cook it. And we were sitting maybe 10 people in one room without windows, because through the windows when the shrapnels and other stuff coming. Luckily we survived this bombing. Germans occupied us completely, and then Hitler came over to Warsaw. Funny thing, I saw Hitler with my eyes. Hitler came to Warsaw to take the big parade of his army. And on the podium, on Main Street, Marszałkowska Street, he put a big podium. Of course, many streets behind him and around him, the houses were evacuated. They were afraid that somebody would shoot him from there. Only on the other side of podium there was a lot of soldiers, and we could stand and greet big Hitler. And on that moment, when I saw this enormous strength of Hitler army, big guys walking like, like conquerors, with arms, with cannons, with tanks, and then we understood that probably this is end of us. That was the worst moment for me, when we realized that it's really over. But we still have hope that someday Hitler will be kaput. We say always Hitler kaput. And in Poland we started to make a home army, resistance, big resistance. There was the biggest in the history of the world was underground army, underground nation. We had schools, we had theaters, we have universities, and of course soldiers were training in faraway forests. So that was started the resistance. I was 9 years old when it was, so I was little. But I knew that my brother was 4 years old. I knew already that he was in the resistance. Of course, we didn't tell our mother, because she was always very weak and sick, not to scare her. But there was always curfew, and at 8 o'clock everybody has to be home. If my brother didn't come on time, we were just scared to death. Because if you were outside on the street after 8 o'clock, you could be shot without asking. And he gave me sometimes some little piece of paper, and he said, go to the post office, go to this little cashier, give her this, and buy some stamps. I was never playing with dolls, but he said, better take the card with the doll and, just pretend that you're a free girl. So I did it like that. Sometimes here, sometimes there. But then the terror was very much big in Poland. They were taking people from the homes, killing them on the street. There was executions on the streets. They asked us everybody to watch it. Then from time to time they closed all four corners of street. The big cars came over, and whoever was in the street, they called it kettles. Whoever was inside the kettles went to the big car, and taken to the Auschwitz or any other campus. So that was very, very hard time. When I finished my elementary school, we were not allowed to have higher education. The Germans didn't want us to be intelligent. They wanted us as workers and feeders, because we had a very good agriculture. So the whole intelligence was mostly killed or destroyed. But we have in my house, we have actually the Candlestein classes. So children came over, we have a big table, and everybody sit there, and we have a lot of plays, games on it, some knitting things, but we were studying. One girl always sat at the door to checking if there's some dangerous thing coming, and the teacher was with us. If anything was dangerous, we are not sure if somebody bad coming or good, but if there is alert, we all put our books on the table and we play and we jump, But thank God nothing happened. So I finished my high school, part of my high school there. And as I said, there was a lot of activity. Like in the basement, there were theater, there was concerts. And in the real theater, the real actors was not allowed to play for Germans, because there was for Germans. They were very mad at us. Some people, of course, like it is. Some people went, got weak and went to play in the theater, but very seldom. But one even was there and was a traitor, so the underground army just confiscated them. There was confiscation of these traitors also. But the terror was very bad. There was no food. I was even going to the station, and the people from the peasant from the country, they brought some food. Even they were not allowed, because anything over they did in the country. They left. Germans left only just they will survive from eating. The rest they have to get to contingent to Germans, because Germans started war with Russia. They needed the food there, so even the peasants had very little. But they smuggled it to Warsaw. We survived a lot because of them, thanks to them. Sometimes they killed the hog and put them to the coffin and pretended that it's a funeral, and then in the secluded place they open it, they cut it and sell it. So I went there again with my faithful cart with a door. So I was buying some sausage or some meat. I came home, I cut it on pieces and would go around the house to all tenants and selling it. In this case, we just earned some money to survive, because oh my gosh, it was such a hunger. We got only rations. Some maybe half a pound of very bad meat a month. Bread was done from beetroots, and no butter, no anything. Something we go to the orchards, so I took a lot of apples, so we eat apples. So long story short, it was big terror. So finally, in 1944, Polish army decided to make an uprising. And we have a Polish Polish government on exile in London. So they were there, and they decided that Germany is already weak after they lost a lot in Russia. Of course, they were to Russia and they lost like Napoleon nobody can conquer Russia. This is too big and too cold. They said General Frost. General Frost killed them because nobody could survive the frost. So we hope that Germany was already weak enough that we can start uprising to get our free Poland, because on the same time, from the west, from the east, Stalin was coming to us. He had on the beginning he had a contact with German. Ribbentrop contact with Germany in 1939. They wanted to conquer Poland from both sides, and they did. I've forgotten to tell that the German came to us on 39 to the half of Poland, and the other half the Russian came to us. So we were divided already in 1939. But finally, Germans didn't like Russians, so they started to attack them. They pushed out Russians from Poland, but Germans covered the whole Poland. And when they were backing off, we decided to finally fight for us, that we didn't have a Stalin breathing on our necks, that we wanted our freedom, Polish freedom. And August 1st, 1944, the uprising started. And at that moment, I was already really in the resistance. I was sworn, and I was started to take part in combat. It was 62 3 days, very hard fight. On the beginning, we have a very few weapons. Of course, in comparison with Germans, we were just nothing. But in the beginning, they were very surprised. They didn't know it. So we attacked German soldiers, and we regained some arms, some guns, some rifles, something, ammunition from them. So the beginning was very, very enthusiastic. There was 18,000 Polish fighters. The rest was civilian, and they were greeted us very nicely. They said, yeah, kill the Germans, kill them. But they started to be very ruthless. On some part of Warsaw, they came over and killed 60,000, in one day 60,000 people, everybody. Children, men, women, old people, everybody. They took away the little baby from the arms of the mother, and they took for the legs, and they thrashed her head over the house. There was unbelievable things. People couldn't even believe that it was like that. It was not this. Very often they did it. Or sometimes I saw myself on the other street, where a little girl was standing and crying on the street, and the German just shot her. She was maybe 5 years old. They were merciless. And then we started to fight and fight. Some districts of Warsaw were long. I was in the central, so we kept very long to the end. The other part of the center, they were west, east, and some Germans were destroying completely. People were stuck. They could run away because they were around by Germans. So they went down to the sewers, and long ways through the sewers from the other big part to the central part. When I was central part, they were walking above of this, this old ficus. Dead people already who died there. Very often people just didn't survive, died. Completely dark smell, and they're walking. They came out in our place. We opened the big covers, and they were, oh my gosh, these people look so bad. You couldn't imagine. Smelly cover with ficus and almost half dead. But in some part, when they started to get out, the Germans took some notice about it. So German was waiting, and then they opened the cover. Everybody was shot by Germans. So you have to have luck to pick up the right cover of the sewers. And we were still there. I remember we fought from the district to district. Then we fought from the street to street. Then for the house to house. And then we were even fighting from the floor to floor. There was next to us was a very big house, the Kodak film. They have their place there. So we went there in the afternoon. They were shooting us from upstairs to down. Then we back off, and at night they left because they was afraid to stay by night. So we went up there, and then we found some food, some not eaten cans of food, some helmet, some shoes. We didn't have anything. We used Germans' helmet. We used Germans only to be not to be taken as German. We had this white and red band. First we had on the right hand, then Germans saw it and they started to do it, to mix up us. Then we started to do on the left. The big, I remember the wonderful moments, that was elation, on these 2 months was bloody and everything, but we were so elated. I remember maybe third or fourth day, we had a big skyscraper, one in Warsaw big. And then the guys went down and put the Polish flag on it. Oh my gosh, we were screaming, we were happy. That was so unbelievable moment. Then the other one was the big building, telegraph and post and telegraph, which was a very big place. We couldn't even conquer it. Our company went first. It was second day of August or 3rd. Of course, we didn't go by streets. We are going by basements. There were, like in big city, house by house by house. So we made the big holes to the basement, to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. So we could go through the whole corner of the streets to different houses to get out somewhere else. So we went like that. We went like this. Finally, we went out, and there was a big park, Park Królewski. And through the park was a barricade, and on the other side of the park was this building we wanted to conquer. So we came out to the park, and they said, bend down, go along the barricade, and only 1, 2, 3 people, and then stop. Because when they saw on the park, they were Germans. When they saw movement, they shoot. So now it's quiet, and again, 1, 2, 3, boo! So they shoot, but everybody was fine. And like this, so we, by rage, we went over there, and we attacked it. I was little. I had some box with some sanitary stuff, with bandage and everything. But we spent there maybe 1 hour, and we said, no, we can't do it, so we back off. It was already night, so we just went through the whole square, not going to the basement because it was night, so we come like this. And then I saw my first killed person. Somebody was on the square, somebody was lying killed over there. Then finally, after some days, I don't remember which day, Polish, some other company conquered them, this post and telegraph building. And that was, oh my gosh, we have, of course, bulletins. We have everything. We have bulletins. The little boys, 12, 11, 9, were going with the post, was going with the letters, Everything was arranged. We have radio. And they show us these guys, Germans, in the Germans' uniforms, getting hands up and getting from there. Oh my gosh, that was one moment also really to remember. And they were so scared, they were trembling like leaves because they thought that we will kill them. Polish people don't kill slaves, no, we don't kill them. We only, shave the heads and send them somewhere, and the people who were wounded, we took them to our makeshift hospitals, and they were taken on. Even in one place that was like this, the two Germans were tended by doctors, and then finally, that was many Polish. Hello, many Polish people they wounded. And the Germans came over and wanted all wounded killed. And these two Germans said, "No, don't do it. We are so nicely tended by the Polish doctors," so they were saved. Okay, so what now? Yeah, my brother was also. He was 18 years old. Was also fighting some far away from me, but sometimes I survived to go to see him, and the 5th of September I went to see him, and they said he was killed. So I was devastated because I know that my mother was somewhere, and I saw her also from time to time, but I didn't have heart to tell her that my brother was her favorite because he was always the good guy. I was always the bad guy in the family. So the whole uprising, when even I saw her, I never told her this. But finally, that was a moment also which I remember. I will come back a little bit. On the beginning, we have a quarters very close to when I lived, and my mother was in the house when we lived. And she was in the basement, and our basement was just under such a gate. So when one day they called me, look, your house was being bombed by Germans, but they were all the time. Three Stukas was going throwing bombs, and when 3 Stukas was going home, bomb and went away. Somebody said, your basement is completely destroyed, 40 people are dead. Oh my gosh, my mother was there. I came over and I was looking through these corpses. On the 5th floor was such a lady, big lady, Italian lady. And she was there naked with her belly open like this. Oh my gosh. And I was looking, I couldn't find my mother. Finally somebody came to me and said, your mother is with other friends in the different basement. So finally I said, oh my gosh, she survived. So she kept with these other people all the time, and she went further and further from the Warsaw. But I have a contact with her. On the very end, we had such a quarters under the street where the tanks were going. So we heard these tanks all the time. And now there were Goliaths. Goliaths was such a thing which German invented, and it was a little tank operated not by person, but I don't know, it's radio or some other stuff, I don't tell you now. But it was going out to some house and blow out, like without person. So the Goliaths, we were so proud because we destroyed the Goliath once with a bottle. We fight with bottle with gasoline and throw out, and it was destroyed. So there was many stories, like Germans left the tank and we were so happy, we were taking the tank, we wanted to use it, and then there was a bomb and so many people were killed. This 63 days was not possible if I talked and talk. I don't know how long yet, it was still not big enough. But I will come to the end now. It was beginning of the 1st of October. We know that it's over. They asked us to just give them a weapon, and a father of my friend who was with my mother came over and said, look, we are leaving the Warsaw. you go to POW because your mother needs you. Your brother was killed, and you don't leave your mother. So I left, kicking and crying, and then because I didn't want to leave my boys, but I went with him and with my mother, and we were leaving Warsaw with thousands and thousands and thousands of people go walking by foot to the place Proszków, where they were the workshop for the rail or the wagons, big halls without nothing. So we slept there 2 days on the beton, on the cement. There was no food, but there was all covered with fence. But people from outside, they were throwing us some kielbasa, some bread. Of course, Germans shoot to them, but we somehow survived. Then they put us to the wagon, open wagon like for the cattle. We were standing like this, and they said there's a lot of wagons. They said we are going to German for the forced labor. So we started to go, and I don't know how long, maybe 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, and then the train stopped to take some water or something. And the guard was walking around us like this, along us like this. And the father of my friend, she was there too, some other people. He was speaking perfectly German. My mother spoke German perfectly too, because when she was schooling, Poland was occupied by Germans and Russians, and she went to Berlin. My grandfather got the job in Berlin. He was a mathematician, so she have a schooling in Berlin, so she perfectly German. And this guy also. He stopped this guard and said, "Look, I have some, golden dollars in my pocket. I will give you if you let out 5 people," because I was 5. He was looking back and forth and said, she opened the door and said, "But if you go out, you are on your own." So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I remember some lady with a little baby on the hand smuggled out behind us. He closed the door, took the money, and he said, "Now go away, vanish, because I didn't see you." And we are standing there like on the open depot, and now if anybody in front will see us, they will kill us, because how come somebody is standing there? But that was, I think, the sign of God, because this train started to puff the clouds of steam, and all of a sudden the clouds of steam cover us completely, like the angels put their wings over us. And we were standing in this cloud and saying, "Oh my gosh, let this train go, let this train go." It was maybe seconds, several seconds or something. For us, it was ages. But finally we hear, choo, choo, and the train left, and we were standing there on the depot. There was some place that this guy knew, some people in the city. So we went over such a bridge over the other side of the train, and they greeted us, they feed us. We were so hungry. We're so dirty, no water for maybe all the time, no changing of this. I had so many lice on my head, so I was combing my head, and the lice were jumping like this, so I took them in the paper and to the fire, and they just and finally we take shower and rain and eat. I remember once we have such a feast, 2 guys came over and said, 3 guys came over to me and said, "Look, we have 1 potato, and a little piece of stale bacon. And we will share it, but we need you to share with us because we don't have a water. And down there in the basement is a gas, like gas to getting to the city. And they make such a, I don't know, they have water there and the glass bottles or something, I don't know. The water was there for giving gas to the city. And there's a little opening and we won't get it. We tied you to the rope and you will go down and bring us the bottle of the water over there. I opened such a little faucet. The water was a little pinkish, smelling gas, but still was. And they took me out. In the meantime, on the bricks, they baked the potatoes, and we cut the potatoes on 4, the little stale bacon on 4, and we have such a feast and the water. That was, I remembered it very well because they were fine. Otherwise, we ate some soup from the grain, which full of worms. Yeah, that was time. And finally, when we left, and in this place, I told you I'm coming back to our running off of the train. We finally got some food, something, and there was still war, where it was the general gouvernement, because Poland was divided on 3 parts. On one part, on east, was Russians. On middle one was General something. And from some part of Poland to the west, there was a Reich. There was already like Germany. And I came from this part, on the Baltic Sea, and my mother had her parents there still. And we didn't know what to go. The Warsaw was completely destroyed. We didn't have only one suitcase, which we didn't have much in it. So to go to this part of so-called Germany, we had to have a special pass. So my mother, of course, knowing the German, went there and she said she wanted to go to Germany because her parents are there. So finally we got this pass and we went there. It was still 1945, beginning of 1945, yes. The Russians started to attack already, and we went there. So the Russians came over to this place, and again they were shooting and shooting and shooting. Oh my gosh, from another war we came, but finally they conquered this. And they were coming we were sitting in the basement again. It was May, yeah, it was May, beginning of May, 1945, because the end of war was 8. So it was still beginning May. Yeah, that was April, because I remember was Easter. Again, very big hunger, no food. They were coming to the basement we were sitting, and they were taking young girls for the cleaning, and of course they raped her. My mother put me to such a big trunk, and I was sitting there. And my mother was sitting on this. I almost suffocated. Wherever they come in, to pick them. Some girl even was pregnant. I remember she was 15. And then again hunger, again Easter. So the this time Russian, were killing all these cows and cut them heads, leave the heads on the meadow, using the oil for food. So at night, I with my some uncle, we went at night to the meadow. I took the big safety pin and he took the knife, and we cut this tongue. So the safety pin, I took it out and he cut the tongue. So maybe 7 of it we brought home, and my grandmother makes such a good feast for Easter. I don't eat tongue anymore. No, and again, where we were to go, the Sopot was a German town, Sopot. We went there by foot because all Germans ran away. because Russian, they were so scared of Russians. I don't know. They went on the big ship Gustloff. The Gustloff was supposed to take them all to Germany, but the Gustloff was torpedoed by Alliance, and all the Germans who left died. And we took nice place we found some nice, beautiful house, all furnished because they ran away. But we didn't have it long because of course the Red Russia came over, and the people from the KGB said, no, this is too good for you, go out. So they ran us away from there, and we had to find some much smaller place. Do you want me to tell more, or it's enough? Huh?
What a fantastic story, and my goodness, it's just really about, I guess, good and evil. And I guess from the time of Cain and Abel, we've had bad people and good people, and these things have happened before. And I think your story of how all this began and the reason behind it and so forth is important for our children today, and it's an important story that you've told. And I know we think that would never happen again, but we know in history, oh yes, it can, and has happened before. I wonder, I guess you were probably 9 years old. Well, in 1936, you'd have been just 6 years old.
Yeah.
The Germans marched into Czechoslovakia,
yes.
and they just marched in, and then they did the same thing in 1939 in Austria.
They greeted him. Oh my God!
And the people cheered and saluted, and they were so glad to see Hitler because they were Aryans, and they thought that the Aryans were a super race. Yeah. They needed to control the world because everybody else, other nations and races, were too stupid to rule, and that they needed to rule the world, and that was their motive for doing what they did. And so I think England saw, of course, after Poland was hit, and
they were such a traitors.
In January 1 of 39, why Lord Chamberlain was sent over to Hitler and asked him, are you coming on to England?
Yeah.
And the treaty was drawn, and Hitler said, no, we'll never harm women and children of England.
In England, yeah.
But that was a big lie. And had you ever heard the story that the war in Poland started because the German army went over and grabbed some Polish men, took their clothes off, put German uniforms on them, put them in foxholes, shot them, and then in the propaganda of Goebbels,
the Polish attacked Germans.
That the Polish came across the line, and that's the reason they hit Poland.
Absolutely. This is German propaganda was, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But
that was September 1, 1939.
Yeah.
And the Stukas came, and the
they
Panzers came.
Bombed the small town, Wolin or something, I've forgotten. All of a sudden, in the morning, they bombed the whole small town, killing everybody and destroying them.
And they executed 250,000 civilians. More civilians died than soldiers did. I think you mentioned to me over the telephone, we just talked briefly, that the Polish Air Force did a great job and never did get noticed.
Yeah, that's of course when we lost the war in our area, all people were going. All German soldiers wanted to fight. My father fought, and on the U-boats he was finally in Liban, in French Navy. He prepared such a ship which pretended to be to be like to be a trade ship. And when Germans came close, he opened everything and they shoot to them. Yeah, he got from General de Gaulle. He got the Lawrence Cross from his hand, and many others. So the Polish pilots went to England and wanted to fight, and they were laughing. Oh, they didn't speak English, and they didn't know. But finally, when they learned how to speak English, they started to be the best fighters. The best. They killed the most Messerschmitt and any other, Czechoslovakian and Polish. The king and queen was praising them. The church was praising them. The church said there was not so few people who did so much to the other or something. But on the end of the war, there was a victory parade, and nobody invited Polish people there because they were scared of Stalin. Winston Churchill and Roosevelt, they were all scared of Stalin, and Roosevelt and Churchill sold us in Yalta, to that we were sold to Stalin. Half of Europe was sold to Stalin. We were under communistic regime.
I just wonder, what did the Polish people think, and what did you think, just a young girl, that where they'd gone into Czechoslovakia in '36, and Hitler was honored and a hero. He had brought Germany out of the Depression, and militarization made their economy good, and they had been really poor after World War I and hurting so, and Hitler brought them out of that.
They wanted a place to live, so therefore they took these other people. Yeah.
And I just wonder, since he was so popular in Austria, up until September 1, 1939, when the Stukas showed up, were the Polish people behind Hitler, and were you wary of him, or did you wonder about him, I wonder? Or do you recall that?
Behind him, never. We never were behind him. Only one thing was that we didn't believe, for a long time, we didn't believe that the war will start. Because we thought that, of course, we have a union with England, with France, and we thought that we are very strong, but we didn't. We had some new, beautiful bombers, aeroplane, but it was nothing. But we didn't believe that he would be brave enough to attack us.
I just always wondered about that because until
we were
the Blitzkrieg of September 1, 1939, England was spoofing about it and thinking Hitler's just a fine guy. In fact, here in America, he was on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
He was
a man of the year.
Man of the Year.
Oh my
Man of the Year.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he had put on the Olympics in Germany.
Yeah.
And everybody from the world went to the Olympics.
1936.
Of course, Hitler was very miffed the fact that Jesse Owens beat his guys because he was supposed to be a super race and the Aryans were supposed to be superior, and yet here's a black man beat them. That hurt him, and that kind of put back his super race thing, and he was miffed with that. We have to constantly be vigilant against tyrants, and it just seems like that freedom is not free, and it is a constant struggle. There are always tyrants out there who would take us over.
Take a Putin.
And they could do it.
Putin now.
How were the Russians to you when they came in? How did they treat you?
They treat us when they cover after everybody was free. We were getting Russians, That was awful, We have first of all they steal whatever they could from us. They were dismantling the factories, taking them. Our shipyard has to build ship for them. We ship for them. They send to their country, and then after some time, when they came completely destroyed, they asked us to repair it under warranty. So we have a lot of strikes. There was strikes in mines. They killed 40, but they didn't kill Polish people. There were bad Polish people who was with them. You know, in every country they are bad and good. We don't have Russians in our country. We have Polish people who belong to party. They have a very good condition. They earn a lot of money, and then you know, they were like KGB, like whatever, and they killed Polish miners. A lot of this. I couldn't have, for instance, I never belonged to any party. Even as a girl, even because there was a young communistic party and an older communistic party, I never belonged to any. So it was very hard for me to get, I wanted to study, and I couldn't get to it. I was going to all around the Poland, everywhere, and they said, oh yeah, you passed the exam, but there's no place for you. So finally, my uncle was in Gdańsk, Institute of Polytechnic, Institute of like Polytechnic, like mechanical school, technical school. So I got there for there was a special course done for the adult people who lost possibility of studying during war. And there was a condition: you have to work, and you have to be old enough. One condition was, because I work again, you know, I work very far because we didn't have money to eat. And I was not old enough, but you know somebody, then you know somebody, I got it. So I got to the architecture, which I didn't like very much, but I wanted to do something, so I have a Bachelor of Architecture. And I didn't like it because it's too many details. I don't like details. They will sit in details, I say. So I got a master's degree in town planning. And because I was engaged in the rural planning company, bureau office, so I did post-diploma in rural planning. So I had a lot of these diplomas. And I work very, very many days, years. I work in Poland in this office. It was very good. Engineers and everything was not too bad. But we had money sometimes when you couldn't buy anything. You know, there was nothing in the store. Sometimes there was a long line in the store, and you stand there and you said, what they are doing, what they are giving here. You didn't even know what, but you stand because maybe you have. I remember for Christmas my husband went to at 2 o'clock to the 2 o'clock at night to stay in line for the butcher store to get a little ham. So we were standing there, people were counting, you know, you were in the number, you could go and rest a little bit in the car, and then when he came to the store, when the store opened, it was already gone. He didn't get anything. So next day he went at 1 o'clock in the morning. So finally he got it, but take one and go, take one, you can even choose. Whatever you get, go. You know, when I came to this country, I said, oh my gosh, I can choose an apple, I can choose an orange. If you have apples or cherries or something, you couldn't choose. You just got a package, this and this money, you take it. You didn't even know, maybe sometimes on the bottom was some rotten stuff or something. For butter, you stay. My mother was in line for butter, and she died there. She got the stroke. She went to the hospital and she died.
My goodness.
You said by hours you have to stay to get a little piece of. Sometimes you come and they said, "Oh, we don't have any more. You tomorrow." So therefore, you know, I decided to. But that was before. That was in our. We got news that the solidarity. And so I don't know if you remember that, if you know it. In Gdańsk shipyard, Lech Walesa make a solidarity movement and solidarity union, and the big strike started in also August 1980, and many people, there was 7,000 workers there. They all closed themselves in the shipyard in Gdańsk and make the strike. So all these companies and different places started to join them. So I make a meeting in our office, and I said, I go there, who wants to go with me? So some people were brave enough and went there. Walesa greeted us. He said, yes, we fight for our freedom now, and so and so. And for 2 weeks there were negotiations with so-called government. You know, our government sent from Moscow. And finally, we put 21 points, free speech, free, press, and so many, and some food, and pregnant women has to have a vacation, and so on, so on, and so on. And they finally signed it because they were very scared. In other places also this union policy, and 10 million people got into it in this time. In Stettin and other places. And they signed it up. And I was so distraught because, for 2 weeks I was going there. Then I came to my office. I was just liaison between the meetings with Solidarity. I came and I make them report. My president of my office said, Miss Basia, this our you obey this our KGB came over and asked for you. I said that you were there. I said, of course I was there. I'm signed there and everything. No, be careful, be careful. So finally my husband said, you are so destroyed, you are so tired. We have a friend in New York. Maybe you go and visit with her. So finally I got the passport and I went there to her to visit with her. I took 3 months free of payment, free time from the office, and went there. In the meantime, my husband worked in the same office. So we drank a lot of vodka, I must tell you. The vodka was during uprising. Mostly we drank vodka. We don't have anything to eat. There was some cafeteria or something, and we found all this air cognac, curacao or something. So we had for breakfast. So my husband knew somebody from the party, and they said, look, your wife left. She was in the Solidarity. There is going to be very bad time for them because Moscow is very, very angry that they signed this everything with you. So maybe you will try to ask your wife not to come, just prolong her ticket back. And I was in New York already, and he was writing to me. I was supposed to come on July. Don't come, prolong your ticket. Finally, when he knew that it's really going to be very bad, he left our house completely, took our son, 13 years old, Oliver, and 1 suitcase, and went to Vienna. There was a refugee camp in Vienna.
How in the world did you get to Bella Vista?
We were, it's a very long story, I have to short it. We were in New York.
Yeah.
I put my diplomas on the wall, and I started to do massages because I knew massages. I was volunteering massages during in Poland in hospitals. So I had a diploma and everything. So I started doing this. My husband is electronic, he was engineer too. He had a wonderful job in Mercy hospitals, Mercy also, and he got injured on the arm, and worker compensation the operation. The office told him, okay, we have to give you half year of leave of absence. You have operation, physical therapy, and come back to us. It was a very good job. And worker compensation, okay, the left arm. And the doctor said, I can't do the left arm, I'm doing the right arm, so I can't operate on you until they change from left to the right. And the beautiful department, worker compensation office, waited the whole year until they changed the decision. And in the whole year, he lost the job, he lost a very good retirement plan, he lost insurance, and he lost his health. He got under psychiatrist care because, you know, if man is like this, that he can do for the house, for the wife, and he was very depressed. So that they just wrong us so badly. They don't even say, excuse me, and I'm sorry. So he's not a very meager compensation workman, and we couldn't stay in New York. It was too brutal. So we were looking for something more friendly. I had no idea about Arkansas, but I saw the lakes here. I said, okay, the lakes, I'm coming. So we came over here. The Cooper showed us our plot. He said, yes, we will build the house for you in half a year. Okay, so we came home. And everybody asked, where are you moving now? I said, to Arkansas. Who is moving to Arkansas? I said, we are moving to Arkansas. So where should I go? No, maybe Florida. I said, no. If we pay big money, I would never go to Florida. I like Four Seasons. I like open windows. Over there, that's not for me. So we moved here, and I was very happy. I must tell you that I like Bella Vista. I started here my school. I wanted always to study because I like study. So I study and work till now because I do it on Zoom. I started tap dancing. I told you that on the parade they will tap dancing. I also tap dancing.
Right. Sophisticated ladies.
Yeah, then I still work because I do my massages. I still have people coming. And, you know, and the lake. So that was everything what I wanted.
Well, you're an inspiration to us because no one, I guess in America, has fought like you have. Nobody. And you're an inspiration and a guidepost for us and a mentor. And we just appreciate you so much. And we thank you for coming today and saying these things. And
I thank you for having
you're
me.
just wonderful. And what a champion and a hero that you are. And we do want you to sit in the chair of honor at the Patriot Parade, okay. July the 4th, if you will. It's on a Saturday.
I told you I am not recognized as a veteran in America.
But you are a fighter, and you have done everything and anything that any soldier in the American Army has done. So we honor you and appreciate you, and thank you for coming today and doing this.